Marcus Turner stares down at the crumpled $10 bill in his wallet, his hands trembling slightly as the cold Chicago wind cuts through his worn jacket. Tomorrow morning, this same man will step outside his apartment to find a gleaming black limousine waiting for him, its tinted windows hiding a secret that will change everything. But right now, in this moment, Marcus has no idea that the decision he's about to make will flip his entire world upside down. The bustling streets of downtown Chicago swirl around him, thousands of people rushing past without a second glance. Marcus closes his wallet and shoves it deep into his pocket, feeling the familiar weight of desperation settling on his shoulders. This $10 isn't just money, it's his last lifeline until his next paycheck, assuming he still has a job tomorrow. Just get something cheap, he mutters to himself, scanning the food trucks lining Michigan Avenue. Make it last. But as Marcus walks toward the nearest vendor, something catches his eye in Grant Park. Sitting on a bench beneath the bare November trees is an elderly man, his weathered hands wrapped around his knees for warmth. The man's clothes hang loose on his thin frame, and Marcus can see him shivering despite the multiple layers he's wearing. Marcus stops walking. The $10 bill in his pocket suddenly feels heavier. "Hey there," Marcus calls out, approaching the bench slowly. The homeless man looks up with startling blue eyes that seem out of place in his weathered face. "Name's George," the old man says, his voice rough but kind. "Don't suppose you got any spare change?" Marcus's stomach growls audibly, reminding him he hasn't eaten since yesterday. He pulls out his wallet again, staring at that lone $10 bill. This decision would change everything. "I got something better than change," Marcus says, surprising himself with the words coming out of his mouth. "How about some real food?" George's eyes widen. "Son, I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Marcus hands George the $10 bill, watching the old man's hands shake as he takes it. "There's a deli right across the street. Get yourself something hot." "But what about you?" George asks, studying Marcus's thin frame and worn clothing. "You look like you could use a meal yourself." Marcus forces a smile. "I'm good, old man." "Really?" Little did Marcus know that someone was watching this entire exchange from a black sedan parked across the street. Someone who had been looking for Marcus Turner for a very long time. As George shuffles toward the deli, clutching the money like a precious treasure, Marcus turns and walks home through the darkening streets. His empty stomach clenches with each step, but something warm spreads through his chest, a feeling he hasn't experienced in months. Back in his studio apartment, Marcus stares at his nearly empty refrigerator and laughs bitterly. Real smart, Marcus. Real smart. He grabs a glass of tap water and settles onto his second-hand couch, trying to ignore the hunger pangs. The hours crawl by. Marcus attempts to distract himself with an old movie on his phone, but his mind keeps drifting to George. Did the old man find something good to eat? Was he somewhere warm tonight? Just as Marcus is about to try sleeping off his hunger, 3 sharp knocks echo through his apartment. His heart jumps, nobody ever visits him this late. He approaches the door cautiously and peers through the peephole. George stands in the hallway, but he looks different. His eyes are red and swollen, tears streaming down his cheeks. In his hands, he clutches what appears to be an envelope. "George?" Marcus opens the door quickly. "What's wrong? What happened?" "I need to give you this," George says, his voice breaking. He thrusts the envelope toward Marcus with shaking hands. A man in a suit came to the deli. He said he'd been watching you. He said you needed to have this tonight." Marcus takes the envelope, feeling the expensive paper between his fingers. His name is written across the front in elegant handwriting. But the real shock was still coming. "Who is this man?" Marcus asks, but when he looks up, George is already walking away, wiping his eyes. "George, wait!" Marcus calls out, but the old man disappears down the stairwell without another word. Back inside his apartment, Marcus turns the envelope over in his hands. There's no return address, no indication of where it came from. His heart pounds as he carefully opens it and unfolds a single sheet of paper. The letterhead reads Reynolds Foundation in gold lettering. Below it, typed in precise font, are words that make Marcus's breath catch in his throat. Mr. Turner, your act of kindness today did not go unnoticed. There are things about your family that you don't know. Things that connect us in ways you cannot imagine. If you wish to learn the truth about your father's legacy, call this number tomorrow at exactly 10 a.m. Come alone. Marcus reads the note 3 more times, each word burning into his memory. At the bottom, there's a phone number and a signature, J. Reynolds. His hands trembling, Marcus drops into his chair and stares at the letter. His father had died when Marcus was 12, taking whatever secrets he had to the grave. His mother had always been vague about their family history, changing the subject whenever Marcus asked too many questions. Marcus reads the final line of the note again, and his jaw drops open. This is, no way. Marcus stares at the note in his trembling hands, George's tears still fresh on his weathered cheeks. The words blur together as his mind races. Your kindness has been witnessed. Tomorrow at noon, 5th and State. Come alone. Your life is about to change. A friend. George, where did you get this? Marcus asks, his voice barely above a whisper. The old man wipes his eyes with a shaky hand. Son, I was walking back from the diner, and this man in a nice suit approached me. Said he saw what you did, how you gave me your last $10. He pressed this note into my hand and told me to bring it to you immediately. Marcus feels his skeptical nature kicking in. He's lived in Chicago long enough to know that nothing comes free, especially not to people like him. Still, something about the elegant handwriting and expensive paper makes him pause. What did this man look like? Marcus presses. Distinguished. White hair, kind eyes. Expensive watch. But Marcus. George grabs his arm gently. I used to be somebody. Before the streets, before I lost everything, I was an investment banker downtown. I know quality when I see it, and this man, he was the real deal. The revelation hits Marcus like a cold wind. George, this man he'd seen as just another casualty of the system, had once worn suits and made million-dollar decisions. The irony isn't lost on him. Here he was, potentially receiving an opportunity from a stranger, while sitting across from proof that anyone can fall. What happened to you, George? How did you end up? Marcus gestures toward the street. George's eyes grow distant. Bad investments, a gambling addiction I couldn't control, and a family that gave up on me. Lost my house, my wife, my kids. Been on these streets for 3 years now. He pauses, studying Marcus's face. But son, I see something in you. That kindness you showed me today. That's rare. Maybe this note is your chance to avoid my path. That night, Marcus lies on his thin mattress, staring at the water stain on his ceiling. His stomach growls, he hasn't eaten since yesterday. The note sits on his nightstand, seeming to pulse with possibility and danger. His practical side screams scam, but desperation whispers what if. The next morning brings harsh reality crashing back. Marcus's supervisor at the warehouse pulls him aside before his shift begins. Turner, I'm sorry, but we're implementing layoffs. Today's your last day. The words hit him like a physical blow. His last paycheck will barely cover this week's expenses, let alone next month's rent on his studio apartment. As he mechanically goes through his final day of work, loading trucks and avoiding eye contact with coworkers, the note's promise echoes in his mind. Walking home past the familiar sights of his neighborhood, the corner store with bulletproof glass, the abandoned lot where kids play despite the broken glass, the bus stop where working mothers wait with tired eyes, Marcus feels the weight of generational poverty pressing down on him. His father worked 3 jobs and still couldn't escape this cycle. His mother cleaned offices at night until her back gave out. Now it's his turn to struggle, and for what? Back in his apartment, Marcus opens his nearly empty refrigerator and counts the contents, a half-empty jar of peanut butter, some crackers, and a can of soup. His sneakers have holes that he's covered with duct tape. The hot water in his building has been out for a week. But you know what? Despite everything breaking viewers, despite the fear and uncertainty gnawing at his gut, Marcus finds himself reaching for his phone. His hands shake as he dials the number written at the bottom of the note. Each ring feels like an eternity. On the fourth ring, a calm, cultured voice answers. "I was wondering when you'd call, Marcus." The man knows his name. Marcus's throat goes dry. "Who is this? How do you know who I am?" "My name is John Reynolds, and I've been looking for someone like you for a very long time. Someone who would give their last dollar to help a stranger. Your father would be proud." Marcus nearly drops the phone. "You knew my father?" "I knew him well, son. And I owe him a debt that I've been waiting 20 years to repay. But I need to know, can you trust me enough to meet face to face?" Marcus's mind reels. His father died when Marcus was 12, and he'd always been told his dad was just another construction worker who worked hard but never got ahead. What debt could this wealthy-sounding man possibly owe? I don't understand. My father never mentioned anyone named John Reynolds. He wouldn't have. Your father was humble like that. Marcus, I know this sounds impossible, but I need you to meet me tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Corner of 5th and State, just like the note said. I promise you, everything will make sense. The line crackles with tension. Marcus looks around his sparse apartment, at the eviction notice that arrived in today's mail, at the empty space where a television should be, but he had to sell it last month. What's the catch? Marcus asks, his street smarts kicking in. Nobody does something for nothing. John's voice softens with what sounds like genuine emotion. The catch is that I should have done this years ago. I should have found you the day your father died. But I was a coward, and I let you and your family struggle when I could have helped. Marcus feels something shift inside him, a dangerous thing called hope beginning to bloom. But before he can respond, John's voice becomes urgent. Marcus, I need you to understand something. What I'm offering you will change everything. Your life, your future, your family's future. But I can only explain it in person. Will you trust me enough to meet? The seconds tick by as Marcus weighs his options. Trust a mysterious stranger or accept that his life will continue its downward spiral into the same poverty that claimed his parents. Finally, he whispers, I'll be there. Good. And Marcus? Don't worry about anything after tomorrow. I'm glad you called. Now, listen carefully. Marcus stares at his phone, the mysterious voice still echoing in his ears. Listen carefully, the voice had said, but now the line goes eerily quiet for several seconds that feel like hours. Mr. Turner, I witnessed what you did for George yesterday. That act of kindness, when you yourself had so little, tells me everything I need to know about your character. The voice is calm, measured, almost grandfatherly. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock sharp. Corner of State and Madison, by the park where you first encountered George. Marcus's hand trembles slightly. Who are you? What do you want from me? Trust, Mr. Turner. That's all I'm asking for right now. One meeting. If you decide to walk away after hearing what I have to say, you're free to go with no strings attached. The line goes dead, leaving Marcus staring at his phone in disbelief. Sleep doesn't come easy that night as he tosses and turns, wrestling with doubt and desperate hope. The next morning brings harsh reality crashing down. Marcus opens his apartment door to retrieve his mail and finds a bright yellow notice taped to the frame. His stomach drops as he reads the bold letters, eviction notice 72 hours to vacate. His hands shake as he calls his sister Lisa from the hallway payphone, since his cell service was cut off 2 days ago. Lisa, I got evicted. 3 days, that's all I have. Marcus, oh God, I wish I could help, but Tony's been laid off for 2 months now. We're barely keeping our own place. Her voice cracks with emotion. What about that weird phone call you mentioned? I don't know, sis. It could be some sick joke, or worse, some kind of scam. But what if it's not? What if this is your miracle? That afternoon, Marcus meets his friend Damon at the corner store. When he mentions the mysterious call, Damon's eyes widen with alarm. "Man, you're talking about meeting some random stranger who somehow got your number. That's how people end up missing, Marcus." Damon grabs his arm. "These scammers prey on desperate folks exactly like you. They probably watched you give that money away and figured you'd be an easy mark. But what if? No what ifs, brother. You got 72 hours to figure out real solutions, not chase fairy tales." As evening approaches, Marcus finds himself torn between common sense and the crushing weight of his circumstances. He stands in his nearly empty apartment, looking at the few possessions he might have to leave behind. A photo of his late father sits on the windowsill, and Marcus picks it up with trembling hands. "Dad, I sure could use your guidance right now," he whispers to the faded image. "I'm about to do something that might be really stupid, but I'm all out of safe choices." At exactly 6:45 p.m., Marcus arrives at State and Madison, his heart hammering against his ribs. The park where he met George yesterday seems different now, charged with possibility and danger. A few people walk their dogs, joggers pass by, but everything feels surreal. He checks his watch obsessively as the minutes crawl by. 6:58, 6:59. 7 o'clock. That's when he sees it, a sleek black limousine gliding silently down State Street like something from another world. Marcus has never seen anything like it outside of movies. The vehicle pulls up to the curb directly in front of him with the precision of a guided missile. For a moment, nothing happens. The engine purrs softly, the tinted windows reflecting the streetlights like dark mirrors. Marcus takes a step back, every warning from Damon echoing in his head. Then, with a soft electronic hum, the rear passenger window begins to lower. What happened next shocked everyone. The tinted window glides down with a soft mechanical hum, revealing the silhouette of a man in an expensive suit. Marcus's heart hammers against his ribs as he stares into the dark interior of the limo, every instinct screaming at him to run. The stranger's voice cuts through the Chicago street noise with unexpected warmth. "Marcus Turner?" The man extends a manicured hand. "I'm John Reynolds. Please, get in." Marcus hesitates, his worn sneakers planted firmly on the sidewalk. "Look, I don't know what this is about, but..." "Your father saved my life 23 years ago," John interrupts quietly. "I've been looking for his family ever since." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. His father, dead for over a decade, had never mentioned anyone named John Reynolds. But something in the man's voice, a tremor of genuine emotion, makes Marcus's defenses waver. Against every rational thought, Marcus slides into the plush leather seat. The interior smells of expensive cologne and new leather, a stark contrast to his threadbare jacket. John presses a button, and the partition rises, sealing them in privacy. "Your father, David Turner, pulled me from a burning car in 1999, John begins, his eyes distant. "I was a mess back then, drinking too much, making terrible decisions. That accident should have killed me, but your father risked his own life to drag me out." Marcus feels his throat tighten. This was around the time his father had come home with burns on his arms, claiming he'd helped in a neighbor's house fire. His mother had fussed over those burns for weeks. "I tried to find him afterward, to thank him properly," John continues. "But David had already moved your family. By the time I tracked down your old address, you were gone. Why now?" Marcus's voice cracks slightly. "Why after all these years?" John's expression grows somber. "Because I've been watching you, Marcus. Yesterday, when you gave that homeless man your last $10. He shakes his head in wonder. "You have your father's heart." The revelation sends chills down Marcus's spine. Someone had been watching him? The paranoia wars with curiosity as John reaches for something beneath his seat. "Here's what's been eating at me," John says, producing a manila envelope. "Your father refused any reward that night. Said he was just doing what was right. But I owed him a debt I could never repay to him directly." Marcus stares at the envelope like it might explode. What kind of debt? The kind that changes everything. John's voice drops to barely above a whisper. After that accident, I got sober. I built my company from nothing. Every success I've had, every dollar I've earned, it started because your father gave me a second chance at life. But even as hope flickers in Marcus's chest, doubt creeps in. This feels too convenient, too perfect. What if this is some elaborate scam? What if someone saw his desperation and decided to exploit it? I know what you're thinking, John says, reading his expression. It sounds impossible. But I have proof, hospital records, police reports, even a photo of your father from that night. He slides a photograph across the leather seat. Marcus's breath catches. There's his father, 20 years younger, standing beside a mangled car, his arms bandaged but his smile unmistakable. He never told us about this, Marcus whispers, touching the photo with trembling fingers. That was David, John says softly. Never wanted credit for doing the right thing. Just like you yesterday. The limo glides through Chicago traffic as Marcus struggles to process this information. His entire worldview is shifting, the walls he'd built around his heart starting to crumble. So what happens now? Marcus asks, his voice barely audible. John leans forward, his eyes intense. Now I get to pay forward what your father did for me. I want to offer you something, Marcus, a chance to change not just your life, but the lives of everyone you care about. Marcus's pulse quickens. This is it, the moment that could transform everything or destroy what little stability he has left. His sister's warnings echo in his mind, mixing with the desperate hope he's tried so hard to suppress. John reaches beneath his seat again, this time producing a sleek black briefcase. The locks click open with decisive snaps, and Marcus finds himself holding his breath. The real reason I'm here is this. John's hands tremble slightly as he opens the briefcase, revealing neat stacks of $100 bills that seem to glow under the limo's soft interior lighting. Marcus's breath catches in his throat, his eyes widening as he processes what he's seeing. $50,000, John says quietly, his voice thick with emotion. Your father, Samuel Turner, saved my son's life 15 years ago. He pulled him from a burning car after an accident, refused any reward, and disappeared before I could properly thank him. I spent years searching for him, only to learn he'd passed away 2 years ago. Marcus feels his world tilt on its axis. His father, the man who worked 3 jobs just to keep their family afloat, had been a hero to someone else's family. Dad never mentioned anything about that, Marcus whispers, tears flowing freely now. He wouldn't have, John smiles sadly. From what I learned about Samuel, he helped people because it was right, not for recognition. When I saw you give your last $10 to George yesterday, I knew you were your father's son. My private investigator has been documenting acts of kindness around the city for months, helping me find worthy recipients for my foundation. Your gesture reminded me why I started this mission. The limo pulls up outside Marcus's apartment building, but neither man moves to leave. John continues, this money isn't charity, Marcus. It's a debt of honor. Your father gave me back my most precious treasure, my son. Now I want to give you the chance to build the life your father would have wanted for you. Marcus stares at the briefcase, overwhelmed by the magnitude of this moment. I don't know what to say. Yesterday I was worried about buying groceries, and now you have choices, John finishes. Real choices. Over the following weeks, Marcus's transformation becomes visible to everyone around him. He pays off his family's debts, catches up on rent, and ensures his sister Lisa can continue her nursing program without working 2 jobs. But perhaps most importantly, he doesn't forget George. Marcus finds George at the same park bench where they first met, this time bringing not just a meal but an opportunity. George, I want to help you get back on your feet. John's foundation has programs for housing assistance and job placement. You don't have to live on the streets anymore. George's weathered face crumples with gratitude. You didn't have to come back for me, son. Yes, I did, Marcus says firmly. That $10 wasn't just lunch money, it connected us. Your story taught me that we're all one bad break away from needing help, and one good deed away from changing someone's entire world. 3 months later, Marcus stands before a crowded community center, sharing his story with local residents. His voice carries clear and strong as he describes the ripple effect of kindness. I thought I was just buying lunch for a hungry man. I had no idea I was investing in my own future. George sits in the front row, clean-shaven and wearing a crisp shirt from his new job at a local nonprofit. His eyes shine with pride as Marcus continues. The lesson isn't about expecting rewards for good deeds. It's about understanding that kindness has power we can't always see. When we choose compassion over self-preservation, we participate in something bigger than ourselves. The audience listens intently as Marcus explains how he's using part of John's gift to establish a microloan program for struggling families in their neighborhood. My father believed in lifting others up, even when he was barely standing himself. Now I understand why. When we elevate others, we elevate our entire community. After his speech, a young mother approaches Marcus with tears in her eyes. Your story gives me hope, she says. I've been choosing between bus fare and lunch for my kids, wondering if tomorrow will be better. Marcus reaches into his wallet and hands her a business card along with some cash. Call this number. We have resources that can help, and more importantly, we have people who believe your tomorrow can be brighter. As the evening winds down, Marcus reflects on the journey from that desperate day in the park to this moment of purpose and abundance. His phone buzzes with a text from John. Saw the news coverage of your speech tonight. Your father would be proud. The foundation is ready to expand the program citywide when you are. Marcus looks around the community center, watching neighbors connect with neighbors, sharing resources and hope. This is what his $10 gamble had really purchased, not just a meal, but a network of care that continues to grow. Walking home through the same streets where his story began, Marcus passes the park bench where he first met George. A small plaque now sits there, reading, in memory of acts of kindness that echo through generations. It's a reminder that every choice to help another person matters, creating ripples that reach farther than we can imagine. The limo may have changed his circumstances, but Marcus realizes the real transformation began the moment he chose someone else's hunger over his own fear. That decision revealed who he truly was, his father's son, someone who understood that our deepest poverty isn't in our wallets, but in our willingness to care for one another. If you've been moved by Marcus's story, I challenge you to look for your own $10 moment this week. Share your act of kindness in the comments below, and let's create a community where compassion multiplies. Sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest changes. What will yours be?